This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Hi, today with me, I have Prat Vamana. He is the Chief Product and Digital Officer at Target, one of my favorite stops, especially on the weekends. Anyways, Prat, it is so great to have you here. Thank you for being with us today. And let me just start by saying congratulations on being a finalist on our top award. That's a major accomplishment.
Thank you, Renee. And I'm so honored to be on this podcast with you, especially given the network and the reach, but also your own personal contribution, what you've done to the community and helping our community across globally. So, such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you.
Oh my gosh! Well, you are much deserved, and thank you for all of those kind words. Have so excited to get to know you a little bit better and hear your story. Before we jump into it, why don't we just start 60 seconds or less? I would love to do a quick introduction of who you are, the role you play at Target, and specifically the products that you deliver on behalf of Target.
Yeah. I'm Prat Vamana, Chief Digital and Product Officer for Target. The D in the digital stands for the digital business. So I have the opportunity to lead our digital business, especially the growth. That's ahead of us at Target. On the product, as a product officer, I have a unique opportunity. It's a brand new role, the Chief Product Officer role. I have a unique opportunity to not only look at this year, but 5 years out, our long range planning LRP, to understand where Target is today and where Target is going and help the product management teams pave the path towards that growth. That includes digital marketing, supply chain, merchandising, finance, HR. One of the things that I'm fortunate to experience in this role is a fairly mature practice that I was able to inherit at Target as I walked into the role, with over 700 product managers alone contributing to this, global, product management practice that we have, very robust and established practice at Target.
Wow, that is massive. I would have never imagined 700 product managers. So kudos for you. And thank you for walking us through that. I guess where I would love to start our conversation is, at the highest level. Obviously, this last few years, there's been a lot of change, a lot of dynamics influencing the role of Chief Product Officer. We went from pandemic to economic uncertainty. And now we're facing all of these opportunities with AI. I would just love your point of view on the evolution of the role, not just the last 3 or 5 years, but just overall since you've been influenced by the role, and what are your thoughts on how it's changed, how the voice of the Chief Product Officer has changed in context of the business?
Great question, Renee. I've been fortunate to have this is my third Chief Product Officer role at a 100 billion corporation, right? 100 billion plus corporation. So gives you a different level of altitude and appreciation for what the role can be and its impact. And I was also fortunate to have played product or product engineering, a combination role at smaller organizations as well, and plus travel, retail, and healthcare. So all three. And you mentioned pandemic, and during pandemic, I had a very fortunate experience to be in healthcare, directly contributing to the health and wellness of the society, if you will. Um, and you asked me like how we have adapt. You've seen the evolution and adaptation. Um, I think number one I would say is product management is playing a key role in shaping and defining the strategy of the organization itself. I think that's a that usually was somebody like a corporate strategy function, but now a direct influence from product has been critical, especially the companies that have been successful. The second one I would say is in non-tech companies, this it's the chief product officer role is becoming a lot more common now. Actually, I mean, tech companies always had product role, right? So seeing this manufacturing, retail, travel, insurance companies that are
Healthcare,
traditionally didn't
right?
have the practice. Yeah,
Healthcare.
exactly. Yeah,
Thanks.
healthcare, banks, and I think that's another evolution that we are seeing, the fast growth of this role across these enterprises.
Yeah.
Also shows the need of both understanding and helping to implement the right kind of strategies at play, but also the technology and the infusion of technologies making us think how we need to act differently to be successful in this realm, right? So that's another one that I would say. And the third one I would say is overall just the community and the voice of the community has been really been powerful in creating the space for it, discussion for it. It's just not the product management practice, but the influence on everyone else to think about how we organize ourselves and activate various initiatives, strategic initiatives, has been very helpful actually. So these are some of the like seismic shifts that I've been seeing in a positive direction.
Yeah, I really like um, I really like some of these trends, if you will, that you pulled. What about if I could just probe a little bit? Since this is your third role at in a very significant capacity and scale, how do you think the impact to the overall business and the voice of the business has that changed with the chief product officer?
That is the biggest evolution that's happening. So
Yeah.
it used to be that a set of ideas will come up from the top down, and we say, okay, these are the five things that's going to change the trajectory of the business. Let's go do it. To now, much more this idea of empowered product teams across the enterprise that is actively defining and shaping not only what could be the right whatever their customer is, whether it's a patient, whether it's a retail shopper, whether it's an investment banker. Doesn't matter who the customer is. The ability to actually see through what are the real needs, how the needs are shaping up, and how the industry is changing, and the impact of roadmap product within that change is becoming much more clearer these days. And I think I remember very clearly this in one of the organizations we had an opportunity to lead a $11 billion transformation, and in that process it was very clear that we had a set of hypotheses and ideas in terms of what will change the trajectory of the organization, but also what do we need to learn in the process to be able to be successful in these initiatives, and whether indeed these are the right initiatives actually, right? So product management was the first one to be called to the action here in terms of not only understanding the initiatives, what it'll take to bring it to the market, but also ability to break it into pieces that we can actually implement, test, and understand and learn, so that we'll know whether the strategy is going to work or not, or if our initial estimates on what it's going to build, what it's going to cost to build something of that nature is also even valid or not. So examples like, um, if we are building a market fulfillment center, we have basic assumptions that we were making around what will be the cost of it. But then actually when we implement it, did the cost hold up? So that now when I put 50 of these buildings, am I ready to go? Product management was in the heart of execution there as well, right? So this idea of that is a big change. The change is like, not only it's the strategies that was being developed, but that is influenced by product, but also ability to learn along the way and pivot based on the execution muscle of product, I think was an important aspect.
Yeah, that's such a tangible example that you provided. And I have to imagine that the impact moving the needle. You and I were just chatting about the passion to move the needle and seeing the impact. There's like decisions at scale in terms of ability to deliver better customer experience, being able to deliver better lower costs to the organization, so Wall Street rewards you. Like the scope of impact at one scale or the other is just now so broad. It's so
Yeah,
exciting.
Renee, I can give you one more example, even in a nonprofit setting. So, in healthcare, COVID was settling in. It was very clear physician burnout was real. I mean, I think we have more patients than physicians can handle, and that's a well understood problem in the industry right now. And now you activate COVID, and all of a sudden, the urgent care needs are going through the roof. And we said, the outcome we wanted to drive is that when you look at urgent care, for example, for the most part, it's flu, sore throat, urinary traction, UTI, urinary tract infections and sprains, things like that. A lot of them can be treated over video, if you will, actually, right? So we, so the ask for the ask from the organization is, how do we shift significant volume of urgent care online at the same time reduce physician burnout? So there's a strategy. Product management was so helpful in thinking through, saying, okay, if that is the outcome you need to drive, we found a technology, for example, in AI, that could completely diagnose based on just questions the patient is answering. But our physicians were not ready. They're like, whoa, 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 we don't want like AI to diagnose my patient.
We're not quite ready yet. Back off.
Not quite ready yet, right? We said, okay, then how about this? Let the AI triage quickly and say how, so that patients with more severe needs can be seen first versus the other, so that we can actually sequence it a little bit better, so they can balance, so that it's good for the patient, good for the system, good for the network. So those are, and then we implemented it, and eventually it became an NPS of 96, highest, satisfaction from the patients, as well as highest satisfaction from the physicians. It's an example of, yes, there is a problem statement. Yes, there is a business need. Yes, there is a, patient need, but product management was methodical about how we can help you solve the right problem the right way, so that there is safety in what we did, and there is care in what we did, and there is efficiency in what we did. That's another example of how product management can play a key role, actually.
Yeah, that's a really great way to bring it to life. Thank you for sharing that story. I'd love to shift gears for a second and talk about your journey and what that looked like. And maybe the best way to do that. I mean, none of us get through this life alone. We all have influences along our way. Some of them are personal, some of them are professional, some of them we know, some of them are we don't know. Um, what's the one person who has had the most influence on your work, um, who's really helped you propel to who you are as a leader today?
What a great question, Renee. And yes, I think um, uh, there is influence from both, outside our network, and also there's influence from our own family, and within the network too, right? So for me, I think the biggest external influence is Professor Heifetz from he teaches leadership at Kennedy School, and I he's the single biggest impact he has made in me. And he talks of, I took the classes on adaptive leadership from him. So the idea is like, no single person is like, bigger than the idea itself. And how do we collect, get the collective wisdom at the same time? As you rightly said, we are influenced and biased in our lives through our own circle, and even people who are invisible to us, actually, if you will, right? So how do you then understand the role and who you are, and separate those two, but at the same time understand the connection there? So adaptive leadership, Ron Heifetz had a significant influence on my leadership skills and where I am. In fact, I would say I became a much better human and a leader after taking that sessions from him, and I owe a lot to him in that way. And definitely, definitely my family, my parents were a significant influence on how to think innovation and possibilities. And I married someone who's like smarter than me, and more humble and intelligent than me. So my wife has a significant influence, not only on personal life, but also in my own career, on encouraging me in the times where I was low, and having me go through career changes whenever I need to. So the support from that cannot be underestimated. So those two, absolutely, an external influence as well as internal influence. And honestly, you learn through your kids too, actually, the influence that they have. You see the world that they're living in today through their eyes, and that helps you actually do a better job, especially in retail today, on how the next generation is shopping, how the next generation is thinking.
Yeah. I guess I would love to do a slightly deeper dive on the professor and what he taught you, and I don't know, can you bring it to life for us with a little story?
Absolutely. I think there are a couple of books that he has, like Leadership on the Line, Adaptive Leadership. I have right behind me in my shelf, right? So um, there are few chapters that he talks about. One is role versus self, right? The idea of who you are and how all of our beliefs were shaped based on the inner circle of our parents and siblings and so on and so forth, all the way through religion, actually, right? So you think about the influence that shapes us as a person, and then the role you're playing. You can put another person in chief digital officer or chief product officer role, the outcome is going to be different, because
Yeah.
the people do shape what they can do within a role based on. So understanding this, who you are and what role you're playing, and being objective about, is super important. Actually, it gives me a little bit of an expectation management, at the same time also um, takes your ego out, and says like it's just a role, do the best you can, actually, right? Another example within his book is like a view from balcony he talks about. So imagine a dance floor, everybody's dancing and you're dancing with your partner. You always want to zoom out and look at from the balcony what the dance floor is dancing. If everybody's doing tango, and if you're doing disco, that's not the right thing. So how do you understand the dance that's going on? How do you understand the sequence that's going on, and how you are playing within that space is super important. And especially large corporations, a lot of times, this is my third large retail organization. I can tell you every retail format is different. Every retail brand has a set expectation from the customers on what they expect from the brand. If we don't understand that, the context never, then we are actually going to be lost, actually, right? So it's very important that we understand the dance floor we are dancing in, and have the balcony view, if you will, actually, right? Those are a couple of concepts that I can quickly highlight there.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So, what would you say is your superpower? I mean, we all have strengths and weaknesses, but we're going to focus on strengths for a minute, that we bring to the table. And I think, the benefit of the C-level position is, we probably have more journeys, more stories, more experience to have shaped that, and to acknowledge it and lean into it. So what is your superpower, and how do you use that at an unfair competitive advantage?
Yeah, no, great question. What a great question. Um, I would start with curiosity. That's my,
Mhm.
I'm full of more questions than answers when I'm in strategy sessions, discussions with the team. Um, to me, curiosity helps me be a student forever. I think that's I would say that's my number one. Many people who work for me, work with me, know that I'm full of questions and full of engagement. It's like, that's something that, yeah, that comes through. The second thing I would say is, I'm very focused on getting it done. So I'm a firm believer that ideas we can generate, sit down and generate 10 more ideas, but can we actually execute and get that done? So I'm very focused on execution and getting it done. That's very, very important. There are moments where we should be in an ideation session. There are moments we have to get things done. A third one lately, I'm noticing, and people are calling me out on this, is they see me as a coach, and in fact, this week I was in a presentation, and after the presentations piece, number of people came to me and said, wow, that was like Professor Pratt, so there is there is an element of storytelling that I've developed that has been helpful. So the coaching aspect of it, and I'm also very pleased when I look around. I've at least touched a few thousand product leaders across the country, and I was looking at the number of people I know in the product space leading in several organizations. I've been fortunate to either work with them or work, they work for me. Either way, in the settings, so that's another, it's a good sign that you surround yourself with the right people. You just all boats rise, if you will, actually, right?
Yeah, well, the it's also incredibly rewarding, right? That you see the careers of those who you have mentored and menteed, and to see them, flourish in their careers, is certainly extremely rewarding. And it also helps with scale, right? What better way to you know to grow, and to grow predictably, than to have a team that is all rowing in the same direction with kind of the same language. And so kudos to you for understanding that, seeing that, and investing in it. Now, obviously, you're probably pretty good at it if they're coming up and calling you professor. I think maybe we'll have to retitle this Professor Pratt from Target. Kidding. I'm just um, excellent. I love that. So the next natural question then, if that's your superpower, what is, one or two best practices that you have deployed at a practical level, in your day to day work, that is, really helped your career, but equally important, has really kind of kept your team on track and sharp, and delivering predictable results.
Yeah, I think the few things to call out is, number one is, building trust within an organization through transparency and stakeholder engagement. I say these big words, but in the end, it's not uncommon to say, I don't know what they're working on, right? So how do you then provide trust that the teams are working on the right thing? through transparency, and through transparency trust gets established, and also then you are talking to the right decision makers to get their inputs in the process. So this cannot underestimate the transparency and the stakeholder engagement. I think that's one big thing that I not only say it, practice it, but also implement it.
Mhm.
I would say the storytelling is the other part of it. Like a lot of times it's hard to communicate if we cannot say what we are actually building, uh, and it's not natural. I mean, it's a hard skill for several folks. Ability to actually have a storytelling aspect to everything that we do. Like if I'm building a search engine for retail, like how do I explain, semantic parsing and relevancy, and it's like it's easier to come from a guest experience or a customer experience and explain it. So the ability to communicate what we are working on in a way that it is easy for the audience to digest, and it's as non-technical as it can be. I think that's also something that I look for and create in the practice. And the third one is really creating that strong leadership that you just mentioned, actually, right? So cannot underestimate. We are only as strong as our leaders, and I think it's important that you have the right leaders and let them do their job. Delegate and give them the power and let them do their job, and that brings the best out of them as well. So those are some of the things that I've been able to do. The lastly, I would say it's not just product management, but ability to influence the organization to change their mindset around what product can do. I think that's also another important and very, very important aspect that transcends any roadmap, actually, right? So I think that's an ongoing work. It's a must do for any product leader within an organization.
Yeah, I agree. Often when you have a superpower like this, you create a certain set of rituals that go with that. Especially as I'm thinking through, you clearly prioritize communications for transparency. You clearly and trust. You clearly, as you mentioned, you've got kind of the storytelling. Are there any rituals that you do on a regular basis that people like practices, if you will, that people refer to that would be worth sharing?
Yeah. Well, couple. No, it's a great question. Couple of things is one is um, especially when it comes to rituals and meetings, um, creating an environment of a discussion and deliberation than a storytelling and a presentation. So it's very important because a lot of times, especially large corporations, is very tuned to PowerPoint all the way through and tell the story, and you want to get the attaboy and you need to get that gold star. It's like we were, as a society, we are trained very heavily on that. But breaking that norm and say, let's have a discussion. You don't need to have all the answers. Even if you come with the question, that's okay, but let's have a discussion. And the discussion is an integrated discussion. It's not just product management, it's product management, user experience design, technology, data science, and business. Like, let's have an open discussion. I've seen magic happen through these. It's always hard for the person to carry the discussion in that setting, but it makes it that much easier if you're a diplomat and a listener in the discussion rather than you are the person who needs to have all the answers, if you will, actually, right? So, to me, I think that's one I've done multiple times now, and it really works. The second part is reinforced learning. So, this is super important. What happens is over a period of time, we believe, it's human nature that I've been practicing this so long that I am so good at it. I skip a lot of steps and I don't understand. But take a minute and say you're influencing a large part of the organization. If I look at, I say this to my product management organization. My product management organization probably consumes 70 to 80% of the development resources across the enterprise. And that means what they are asking the development teams to do is exactly what is going to be defining the organization's next 3 to 5 years path, actually.
Yeah.
It's that responsibility, right? So ability to have that clarity, saying yes, you may understand it, but take a minute to explain others on why the rationale is what you're asking them to build, and be clear about it. I think that's another, it's very another routine that actually works. And the other one that I found to be very helpful is some of the peer discussions and reviews, actually, right? So
Mhm.
often we don't give enough space and time. In the software development, it's very common to have peer reviews, and in the medical healthcare field, it's common to have peer reviews. Why not in product management? Why not in, like, so idea of having your peers look at it in a couple of other directions and do it. So that's another one that actually always helps through discussions and through formally established routines.
Yeah, I love that idea of product management peer review. As an aside, when I was in your role, we used to do weekly use case reviews where all the product managers would get in a room. It was a super casual room, by the way, so it didn't feel super formal, no presentations allowed. And we would just walk through the latest and greatest, early story use cases and critique each other. And it ended up being just one of the most high impact, powerful tools that we had, right? So I plus 1,000 on the peer review.
And Renee, I think the that no PowerPoint discussion is super important that you just mentioned, because I think we got to get out of the slides and have a discussion. You could use it to introduce the concept and idea, but I think the more candid discussions, the open-ended discussions and question answers, the easier the job becomes, actually. So, and it's fascinating how much of clarity we can drive in these discussions. Even our own head gets to a better place, saying, okay, now I'm a lot more clearer what I
So
was actually. Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So true. Well, as expected, Prat, time with you has just flown by. I could sit here and chat with you all day, but it's time for our last question. And we're asking everybody the last question, same last question this year, because obviously, with generative AI really coming into season this last year, there's a lot of questions on the table on the role of generative AI, specifically how it impacts the role of product management. So I would just love your perspective on how you think AI is going to impact product management, both short term and long term.
Yeah, it's a great question. In fact, not a hour goes by without something inbound around AI or generative AI, actually, right? Um, Renee, the rate of change of this technology is just fascinating. Even before we actually create a use case and bring it to the guests or our customers, the underlying platform already changed, actually, making the use case a little bit out of date. That's the speed in which this is actually going. There are, I believe, this is going to be one of the most significant changes that as a society we will experience. Not even product management. A lot to come, and it's in the early stages. Um, I do believe there are a few things that we are asking our teams to look at, right? So number one is just equip yourself in Gen AI. I think it's important that. I recently had a vacation. I was planning a vacation to Spain, and I went to one of the travel sites, and I just said, here is the dates I'm going to be in this city, and here is my preference. I want outdoor, I want this, and it's just amazing how much help that you can get in those simple prompts, if you will, actually, right? So irrespective of where the tech, whether I use the technology or the change, or this new transformation within my work in our own life, I think it can make things better. So I think, first embrace it, learn it, and lean into it and practice it. The second thing I was telling that I tell the product management team is, like, take a look at your existing roadmaps and say, what can be accelerated with this? We have seen things that we could do in say 2 years can be done in 2 months now, actually, right? So there are things that applying generative AI. So the things that those are promising areas where we can accelerate your roadmap. That's very, very important. The second thing is where we can leapfrog also. There are things that we can just skip a couple of generations of things. Looking at your roadmaps with a critical eye to say where can I accelerate, where I can leapfrog is very, very important. The third thing I would say is manage the risks in a right way, actually. So in this particular case, having legal, having HR policies along in the journey is super important. It's not a side thing. It's not an afterwards thing. It's not one of those, let me give you the agreement, please sign here. It's actually helping them be with you in the process to shape the outcome itself, because a lot of what we are seeing is like areas that we have not faced is actually becoming possible. But then how do you know where the biases are? How do we do this very responsibly, if you will, actually, right? So
Yeah.
that's the other thing, have the right friends around you in this journey so that they can take you through this safe place. Um, but dream big. I think it's very, very important that this is one of those transformative moments. There's this breakthrough in not only things we are building, but things we are doing every day that can be influenced through Gen AI.
I love the dream big, and I definitely am going to end on that note, because I agree. Depending on who you talk to, this is as big potentially as the Industrial Revolution was. So, how are you going to make your mark? Dream big. I love that. Prat, it was so much fun having this conversation with you. Thank you for spending the time with us. And again, just congratulations. Job well done on being a finalist this year in our top CPO.
Thank you, Renee. It's such a pleasure talking to you. And huge thank you for you and the organization for not only building the community, strong community around it, but bringing voices of various product leaders to the market so that we can learn from each other and benefit from each other. Thank you.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.